Y'all, it's 2 o'clock. Let's see if that helps. Leland.
Listening to you.
I can just be like, Leland.
Yeah, you could say that.
It's not helping.
He's still not listening.
No. It's Leland and Dina. What do you know?
This is what happens with a group of educators.
Okay, y'all, it is 2 o'clock. It's 2:01. All right, would you call the roll,
I
please?
will. Miss Berry.
Here.
Miss Casper.
Present.
Miss Flom.
Here.
Mr. Hammonds.
Present.
Miss Myers.
Here.
And Mr. Vella.
Here.
Do we have any public comments?
No comments.
All right. Art, I can't wait to hear it.
First of all, it's good to see everybody here, and thank you to our staff for taking time out of your busy day to be with us here, and then everybody that's with us on the live stream as well. I know we have lots of staff members that, lots of EPIC employees that join us for our monthly board meetings as well, so good to see everybody, and excited about back to school. We are talking days away, and so we have been preparing diligently for that. So a lot to talk about tonight, excited about that. Excited about this upcoming presentation here, though. Most of you all know that we have been on a journey with the Baldrige organization for several years now. And it first started with Bob Summers, and this dream to become the best organization that we possibly could be. And what the Baldrige organization has done for us, the Baldrige Journey has created a blueprint for us through a series of questions to help us wrestle with decisions that ultimately shape our organization. And we have been at this for multiple years now, and trying to determine who we are and why we exist. And so we have a very special guest that is with us here today, Heath Wright with the Oklahoma Quality Foundation, which represents the state of Oklahoma's version of the Baldrige, and he has a very special presentation. So if you would, please welcome him to the podium.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, so I have one of the most unique jobs in the world is that I get to get up and say really nice things to people that have done a lot of hard work. And so I am very excited to be here. I do want to start off with a first. So I've been a part of Baldrige organizations for about 22 years. I've been in Oklahoma now with this organization for about 7, and your organization had a very interesting first for me. So we put a PhD person on your team that came in to do the assessment. We did it because he had come out of career tech, and we thought he would be a really good expert for your team. And right after your site visit, he had just met with the leadership team, spoken to the senior leaders, and he called me and he said, Heath, I think I have a conflict of interest and I'm gonna have to step off the team. And I thought, all right, what in the world would we have missed? What's the conflict of interest? And he said, well, I just got out of the leadership team. We've been talking, and one of our kids isn't doing very well, and after meeting with their leadership team, we're going to put our kid in EPIC. I don't know if I can continue. And I thought, well, first of all, I'm not sure that's a conflict of interest, but let me be transparent and call them and see if they're okay with it. And Leland, I think I called you, and we laughed, and we laughed and decided that that was probably one of the biggest wins that we could get out of a site visit. And so what I want to start with is know that for a group of examiners that came in, your organization won them over. And even with all of the noise, they came out and were really proud to have been able to see the organization and the work that your people had done. And so I want to give you the highlights of what they said in case you did not get to see part of the feedback report. This is what our team said. They said that for EPIC, your strongest aspects were your mission-driven focus. That throughout the organization, what they saw was a group of people that were centered on the students, and that the students would be successful, and that they had thought outside the box and were willing to challenge the status quo, and they felt that that was one of your strongest aspects. They mentioned things like the personalized education to achieve student success, your inspiring and educational transformation for every student, and they said they saw that through the organization. They then also saw that for your workforce or your teachers or anybody that was supporting that when they spoke to them, people loved being here. And they could speak of talking about the kids. And when they looked at your outcome metrics were very good, especially in Oklahoma, but also approaching excellence within the nation. And you had done something very unique. In some ways, you had stabilized pay and were taking care of teachers in a way that others were not, but you were also keeping the overall cost of the student down. And so they saw that, and what they heard from your teachers was they enjoyed being here, and they constantly talked about what it meant for the student, which is that alignment back to who you are and your mission. The other thing that they saw is they saw a systematic, strategic plan that was moving your mission forward, and typically were able to answer the questions that the body of knowledge says a high-performing role model organization can answer these questions. So I love that you started with questions. There's a quote that the smartest person in the room has all the answers, the wisest person in the room has the best questions. And that as you grow as an organization, you learn to ask better and better questions of the organization. And then as a group, you begin to put answers that answer the most important things for who you are. And so the next thing that they saw was operational excellence and innovation. And what they talked about is your key performance measures were moving in the right direction. And then they also brought out that your ed tech team and the innovation process were promoting process improvement and technological advancements. And one of the things that they really, really appreciated was you were able to talk before events happened and after events happened and communicate all the areas that you had grown. That is the definition of a role model organization that is learning and performing. And so they were very excited to see that. And then one of the last specific things were that you had created what we would call sustainable and resilient financials. And I just talked about the 3 tiers of a high-performing organization, and they felt you checked each box. And we would actually say 4, but there are 3 big ones. And I would say you check all 4. You take care of your students, which is in your mission. You take care of the people that are delivering the care. You create a financial environment where the mission can continue. And you take care of your community. And for those of you that did not get to see it, I would like to tell you there's a gentleman. I'll start with his name, and then I will give you his title. You probably know him. It's Matt Pinnell, which is Lieutenant Governor Pinnell, which is who handed the award to EPIC. And in that event, what he said was that he really appreciates an organization that has the ability to take care of 35,000 or more students in Oklahoma. And what he told me was he was proud to do that because of the work that you had done, and especially when you had a team that came in and validated that what you were saying you had done was real. And so I very much appreciate him recognizing you for that, because it does establish you, and I want you to hear this, as a role model and approaching top-tier role model status in the state of Oklahoma. And then my encouragement would be that you don't stop there. You continue to become a role model in the nation, and I will share with you, I have gotten to watch a little bit of the journey just as an outsider. I don't know everything about your culture. I may say something a little bit wrong. If I do, I'd ask you to give me the grace to do it, but I am very, very excited about your organization. And I have watched other schools go from not wanting to talk about your name to we need to do some things that are different because they are doing things. So my encouragement, stay on the journey. Make a difference in Oklahoma. Continue doing what you're doing. Stay on the path that you're on. And continue to do these things. Maintain your student-centered approach. It's very unique in the world, especially in America today. Continue to value your people. Teach your students and the communities that you're in. Continue to focus on a strategic plan that is growing and evolving, and really focus on executing your strategies well. Continue to improve and innovate. Make a difference in this community. And then, and maybe most of all, continue to engage this community so that you make Oklahoma stronger. I want to tell you a little bit about the award, and then however you want to do it, we can. I want to make sure we get some pictures. But we have 5 levels of recognition. And even though we call it an award and there's a trophy, much like any sports team, most people will never remember the piece of glass. That just represents the journey that everybody in this room and everybody that works for Epic and all of your students and the teachers and support, the journey that you've taken. A level 4 means this. You have a well-established mission, vision, and value set. You know what you do well. You have a strategic plan that, by and large, reflects taking care of your students and those that are taking care of the students. You have the financial resiliency to continue through time and weather the storms of whatever comes to our country. And you are beginning to see trends in your data that are demonstrating that you are a top tier or top 10% organization. The difference between a recognition of 4 and the top state level is only maturing within your systems and continual years of data that are improving. The difference between a level 5 and a national role model is that as you begin to benchmark across the country, you're comparing in that top quartile, top decile, top 25%, top 10% within the nation. And so I want to recognize you on behalf of the Oklahoma Quality Foundation, our board of directors, our board of examiners, and our judges. And just so you know, Oklahoma judges did not award this to you. We had national judges that looked at this because of the environment that we were in, and it is very difficult to push back on a national judge. And so this was awarded by a group of judges that come out of other programs, not just Oklahoma, that said you absolutely deserve to be a level 4 recognition, and that we would like you to continue on to the next level. Who wants to receive this?
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Got it?
It's okay, I've got it.
Okay.
I would like everybody that is here with us, let's go to the back of the room and board you too. And let's take a group picture to celebrate this momentous day.
Okay, well,
I think he's got one more thing.
Yeah.
Ginger.
Okay, final comment from me. One of the things that I like to do is kind of give a little bit of a charge to your team. After you begin receiving recognition, especially if you start receiving recognition in the top level, and 4 and 5 are the top levels of the state, and you begin to think about moving on to national, here's the next charge I give you. You have a couple of choices as an organization, and this is probably one that I will address to the board of directors. What I see with organizations as you begin to get recognition for success, there are multiple paths, but there are two main ones. One, I would say, is a little bit dangerous, and it's the path that says, we've now been recognized, we're excellent at what we do, we're now an expert, and we're kind of the best. Somebody knows where I'm going. The second one is the one that I would encourage you to take, which is a little bit more of a humble road, which is, as we become recognized, and you're not recognized by a trophy, you're recognized for the work and the best practices that you have created, is now be willing to share and take others with you.
That's right.
You have a very, very compelling story. And what I would remind you to do is now steward it well, and as opportunities come more and more, be an encouragement, take others with you, and ultimately continue to make a difference at the state level and in the national level. And so on behalf of the Oklahoma Quality Foundation, I just want to say thank you for who you are, what you're doing, and for what you're doing in the lives of students. Nice job.
Thank you.
thank you. All right, Bart, nothing else?
That's it.
Thank you. I definitely, just one comment on that. In times of stress, it is so tempting to close down. And I cannot stress how much it is so important to add on and open up, because that is what truly, that vulnerability, that humility, that love, yeah, that care is really what calls us all to our best. And I appreciate your leadership, friend.
Thank you.
deeply.
Thank you.
All right, so board committee reports. Trevor?
I was in traffic.
So I'm good.
Yeah, but did you guys have one?
Yes, we did. I inquired about the results of the additional budget to the 23-24 school year. The results aren't in just yet because all bills haven't been paid, but I was told that she thinks we're going to be pretty close to where she originally thought. Then we spent a lot of time discussing the Learning Fund and just basically educating me on that. And then the last thing I talked about was the possibility of Epic purchasing real property instead of leasing larger buildings and the complications with that. So, but that's what we spoke about.
Thank you. Anything from Dominating?
We did not meet. However, we are in receipt of a couple of candidates from other board members. We plan to meet about those, vet them, and look forward to interviewing them soon.
Thank you. Sarah, do you want to speak on pathways before we go to this next item?
On which?
Well, we had an ad hoc committee meeting on that.
Yes.
I don't know if you
yeah,
want to
on
speak
our-
to it.
On our candidates that have applied, and I, we reviewed them and definitely have all agreed to move them forward.
So with that being said, we can take consideration and possible action to approve the recommended application for Pathways Adult High School Completion Program. I accept a motion to approve those candidates.
I'll move.
Second?
Did you second it? Okay. Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Ms. Casper?
Yes.
Ms. Flom?
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
And Mr. Vella?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Summers.
microphone on without getting too loud. So this is a trying day for me, having to follow Heath, right, and all that work. Congratulations. It's fascinating to watch. I was always told, Heath, they always told us that once you got to the top of the heap in the pile, what you had to do is go find a bigger pile to climb. And so that's the same thing, taking people along with the journey. I do want to make a comment that Heath and I are on another project with a state agency, the Office of Educational Quality and Accountability, where we're going to try to change the way we review school performance to be more Baldrige oriented, more aspirational, more focused on the work of focusing on students and the quality of staff and everything than just so many regulations. So congratulations, Bart and board, just fascinating work. Today, we've got some interesting things to cover. Next slide. I wanted to start with an interesting one. It's a common topic today is chronic absenteeism. We've got our share at EPIC, but I wanted to note that we've made real progress. The team that works in the instructional world has moved these numbers from the high blues, which was in school year 22-23, moved them down to where they are now in 23-24. Now, 1 out of every 4 students that has a chronic absenteeism problem still sounds like a lot of work, and it actually is. The team is working on dashboards, working with data sets, and starting first thing at the beginning of the year to try to circumvent or kind of run these problems off before they become a challenge for students. The sooner the better as we work with students that are having challenges. But I wanted to give credit where credit's due to see the progress that's been made in a single year on these numbers. We'll watch them again for the coming year. Chronic absenteeism. Next slide. This next one is a teaser. This is like when you watch the little ads for the TV shows or the movies. This is what we'll be talking about next September, or this coming month, the next board meeting in September. But this is the actual achievement overall state results that came out of the state testing system. Do you see something unique about that? What do you see in those numbers that you either like or don't like?
I see a very significant jump.
Significant jump indeed. Going from a 16% passage to 22%, from 19% to 35%, those are real jumps in performance. So next month, we're going to find out what maybe contributed to those. Might be some interesting things that are outside the organization, but there's going to be a lot inside the organization, and it should be an exciting month to look at details. We'll do the same as we did last year. We're going to cover how performance of particular innovations did, how the overall organization did, and if you'll recall, we got to see the inside parts of the performance. But the bottom line is the results are up, and we predicted that they would be up. We are also going to be trying to compare that to all the other schools in the state to see where you stand in comparison-wise. Of course, now Heath's got us, I got to think about national comparisons now, so we'll have to do some work in that area as well. But I just wanted you to know that next month should be an interesting time to dig into these data points. But right out of the gate, they look really positive, and they're going to be fun to analyze. Next slide. It's timely that you're winning the Oklahoma Quality Award for Achievement of Excellence, because a lot of times you'll think as a board, you think of all the work that's been done to make this possible. And there has been an incredible amount of work and an incredible amount of true innovation and true creativity by all levels of the organization. But I want to remind the board where it starts, and that starts actually at the board level. You don't have the time, energy, talents, or anything else to go instruct 30,000 students. but you have laid the groundwork and established the key features of governance that makes it possible for all of the people that work for EPIC to do the incredible work that they do. And so we're going to spend a few board meetings to talk about governance and what the requirements are and what you've put in place so that you can have a conversation about making sure that you stay on your targets of trying to achieve greatness, but also to have an opportunity to really study and learn the policies that you have in place and how they can benefit you and the organization as you move forward. I put up the beginning point of what governance requirements are. These are 10 things that governance boards have to do in one form or fashion to meet expectations of the literature and of the research on high-performing organizations, whether those would be corporate boards, private boards, family boards, or school boards. And you'll notice down through there, they're pretty straightforward. Understand and represent the community's expectations. What do you expect of them? And you usually do that through your ends policies, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You establish and promote the organization's mission, vision, values. You heard about that today, earlier in the award process. Acquire information, establish clear policies, evaluate student performance, but also financial and process quality. Hire and evaluate the superintendent, discharge legal responsibilities. A lot of times the world applies things to you or forces you to do things that maybe aren't governance related, but they're management related, and somebody passed a law that said that you have to do it. Act in an ethical manner, evaluate your effectiveness, and then engage in board development. What do you see up here, or what do you not see up here? Any ideas of what doesn't appear on this top 10 list? What isn't on the list?
Getting into day-to-day operations.
Yeah. Nothing on this list says that you have to open a building this month. Nothing says that you have to have teachers hired, or actually says anything about you having to hire teachers. How many teachers do you have hired, Bart?
We have over 1,000.
Yeah. And as I recall, you had every position filled and you had applications to go beyond that.
Yeah, so I think we hired close to 300 certified teachers this summer, and cumulatively between certified and non-certified, from January 1 to today, we had about 7,000 applicants who wanted to work at EPIC.
Now, what's interesting about that statement is there's lots of hard work that goes into hiring staff. You have established why they want to hire those folks and what the community expectations are, the ends policies on what you're trying to accomplish. And if you had anything that you wanted to say about the hiring process, you could put executive limitations in place to prevent things from happening that you didn't want to have happen. But here's the amazing part. It's kind of like a soccer team. How many of you have watched pro soccer and how the players move around and there's plays to be had and there's all kinds of excitement? How many of you remember having your children play soccer on the little field? What's the biggest difference between those big pro soccer teams, besides size, and the little soccer teams? Does anybody remember? The huddles, yeah. The biggest difference is if you watch little soccer players play soccer, they all chase the ball. They're all chasing the ball. They don't hold a position. One of the toughest things a coach has to do in soccer is to stay in your position and play your role, play your responsibility. Well, the same thing is true in public education, is lots of people want to play in lots of different roles at the same time. And what happens is you don't get good results when everybody's chasing the soccer ball. When everybody's playing their position and playing strategically, you win the game. And that's what you folks have done exceptional work, and that's what these 10 items are. This is the stuff that you have to do to allow the rest of the organization to be successful. Does that make sense at some level? Now, the good news is you chose Carver Governance, and it's kind of got a structure to it. So if the next slide there's 4 parts to your Carver governance work, and we're going to spend a little bit of time over the next few meetings talking about them. One of them is this decision about organizational ends. What do you want to accomplish? What good for whom? And the way you've described it, the way the board here has described that, is in 5 aspiration statements. The first one being empowering students and making them future ready and in demand. And so you have a set of measurements and an aspiration that puts a lot of pressure on the rest of the system to work effectively. That's the ends policies. Executive limitations is where you say, yeah, Bart, you can go do anything you want except don't do this, this, and this. And by telling Bart what he can't do, you free him up to do all the things that he can do, and while still maintaining control over concerns that the board might have. Decisions about linking governance to management. This is a big area that you do extremely well at, and we'll talk about the details on it. And then your own governance process, and you've heard your committees talking about membership and who's on the board. So those are kind of the big picture stuff that we'll spend some time on each individual area. The last slide is where we'll kind of begin next month. You had laid out and passed these 5 aspiration statements. You also decided as a board to have Bart create the KPIs under each one of those. And we're going to bring those back in September and let you see what they've arrived at. There's stuff that you've seen all through the year, but we've just codified them into a simple form so that you can see right where they are. This work, Ginger, I remember when we did this. It was a different day and time, and these withstood a lot of hard work, but these are what have actually driven the organization to be an exceptional organization that it is. And that is coverage. Comments, questions? How many of you are excited about coming back to a board meeting in September?
I'm very
Maybe I don't want to
excited.
answer that.
Yeah.
No, it should be a good month. We're going to have good results. I predict you're going to have some good performance results. You're also going to have some fun playing with the work that your own work is trying to do.
I have a little bit of an ask, if you can, I don't know how it plays in, but I do think COVID recovery has a role in some of this jump, and so I'd like to know if we can flesh that out at all. And I think even comparing kind of worldwide might help flesh that out, I don't know, but just a thought to see
Absolutely.
how much that's played in, and that's a big jump, and I do believe in our work, but I'd like to know if we can and look at that piece as well. Also on the patterns and like reestablishing pattern, this absenteeism, I think that's huge work too. Because reestablishing these patterns and rhythms that were pre-COVID that we lost, we lose a lot of ground with our patterns and rhythms is a huge heavy lift. I'd be curious again, our comparison on that number, I think is a way to kind of look at that and say like, how have we done in that reestablishment, particularly given asynchronous, work, so.
And we're also going to, one of the things that we're hopefully going to come back with is the ability to say, regardless of the variances in the environment, how did we respond better or worse than everybody else did?
Exactly, and that's what I want to build that resiliency
Yep.
into, the next whatever's coming, because I would certainly hope that during our tenure here, we never have a failure at that level again, and we take all the data we've gained here to make sure that we, that we're providing something way more consistent than what was provided at that moment.
What's interesting, the performance growth and the cut in chronic absenteeism is an interesting part for me to see how much of that effort, because I've seen some data points that they've been working on instructional activities and to what extent instructional activities actually have a positive or negative influence on achievement. Fascinating work, but we'll be bringing that back. So I'm glad those will be interesting to you.
Dr. Simmers, what defines chronic absenteeism?
Justin? Michael? And this is the moment that you find out the true source of knowledge.
So these are students that
Just talk loud, Mike. It's, basically, it's any student that has a greater than 90% absenteeism, or less than 90% attendance.
Yeah, you can go either way.
Yeah, thank you for correcting that error.
Or more days or percentage of days that
That would be about 18 days and 180 days.
That was what I was going to go to, 10%, 180 days, 18 days, yeah.
One small caveat, these are full academic year students.
Oh, good point, yeah. So these are students that we had for the entire year that had 18 days or more is a good rule of thumb. So that's a fairly big number. By the way, we'll try to have some comparisons on that. That's just us comparing year over year. We made progress. The question is, did somebody else make more progress than we did? And those are valuable pieces of knowledge. Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're back to you, Bart.
Yeah, so on that note too, we're going to have our Deputy Superintendent of Instruction, Justin Hunt, hopefully in September, if we get the data back from the State Department of Education, come up and present to you. If not in September, then in October. But basically what we'll do is we'll take all of this student performance data that we get back and we'll slice it up and be able to look at through a couple of different lenses, different subgroups, special education, English language learners, some of the different subgroups that I think you all might find interesting, and then obviously give you all an opportunity to ask Justin questions. Teachable moments, what did we learn? What are we doing going into the 24-25 school year? And so this is something that throughout the fall we're going to be diving into, just as we do every year, and in the spirit of transparency, sharing both the good and the bad with you all in our effort to be the best organization we can possibly be. So let's go to our superintendent's report, and let's see what's going on for August 8th, 2024. What's going on? There's our 5 aspirations. Bob talked about those and our symbols. I actually saw, here's something really cool. So we had these PLCs, these professional learning communities, where the different teacher groups, principal groups, managing director groups get together. And we've actually had, I saw a group of teachers wearing a t-shirt, a new t-shirt, their team shirt had our 5 aspirations on there, like the logos. And so you can see it's certainly trickled into our water here at Epic. So very proud of those. And Bob's right, those are our North Star. That is our guiding light. And so when we make these decisions about where we're allocating time and resources, we try to filter it through the lens of, is it hitting on one of those 5 aspirations? Microsites. So I wanted to give you an update on our microsite acquisition. We have a desire and a vision to someday have an Epic microsite in all 77 counties. And so we are trying, led by Deputy Superintendent of Operations, Shauna Sokol, to acquire these different microsites and have a dedicated space for our teachers to be able to meet with their students. And we utilize a lot of different spaces throughout the state of Oklahoma, from public libraries to different public areas. But having a dedicated space that is safe and secure for our teachers and staff members to be able to meet with families, to have a physical footprint in those counties is a dream of ours. And so just wanted to update you on the progress that's been made. We'll have 18 new microsites throughout the state of Oklahoma for the 24-25 school year, and you can see where they're located. And we're just slowly working our way out to the more rural outlying communities, but we've now opened Muskogee and McAllister, opening soon Claremore. We just went to Claremore, by the way, 2 weeks ago. Our executive leadership team actually drove over to the Claremore microsite and met there for our team meeting. It is beautiful. It is such a wonderful space, and our teachers and students and parents are going to love it. So really, really excited about Chickasha, Seminole, Miami, Hugo, and then we're in the construction phase on Ardmore, Shawnee, Ada, Mustang, Coweta, Bartlesville, Okmulgee, J. Pryor, Veneta, Brixton Square here in Oklahoma City, right off Northwest Expressway. And so there's a picture of us at the Claremore site, and just a wonderful space for for our staff and students. So very, very proud of our operations team. People have no idea how difficult it is from soup to nuts to be able to open up just one microsite in terms of all of the certifications that have to be acquired. We're working with local municipalities. Then we come in, we paint, and we do the, the construction phase of it. Then we do the branding phase of it. And so there is so much that goes into this, and in time and resources. And so very proud that we're beginning to expand our physical footprint. So, and we'll keep bringing updates to you as far as our Epic microsites go. So excited about that. PLC, so of course it's that time of the year for our professional learning communities. Our Assistant Superintendent of Instruction, along with their teams of MDIs, principals, instructional administrators, and teachers, have been gathering at Rose State College in Midwest City for their PLCs for the 24-25 school year, and additionally, other departments are holding PLCs. One of the things that's really neat is most of these PLCs, I believe, we actually bring in all of our different departments, from our family engagement department to our learning fund department to these different departments that may not interface all the time with our instructional teachers and principals, et cetera, and we give them an opportunity, a very intentional opportunity through these different exhibit halls to get their questions answered and to talk about what's new and different for the 24-25 school year. So you can see some pictures of some of our teachers and staff that have been meeting here at 50 Penn and then also at Rose State College. So Back to School Expos, one of the things we've done the last couple of years through our Family Engagement Department are Back to School Expos, where instead of you coming to us, we're coming to you. And so you can see August 20th in Oklahoma City, then Lawton, Glenpool, Ardmore, Norman, Enid, and then we're going to be in North Tulsa again this year. So hosting our Back to School Expos at this event. There's Epic departments available to answer questions, informative parent-caregiver breakout sessions, and engaging new students. So new and updated information is going to be shared. So these will be helpful for both new and veteran Epic families. So if we have any families that are watching the live stream right now, be sure to find the Back to School Expo in your region, whether you're a new student or a returning student, and let's get connected. Power School Edge Conference. So during the last week of July, Epic was represented by more than 35 employees at the Power School Edge Conference in Seattle, Washington. So keynotes featured topics on artificial intelligence, leading and pioneering innovation in education, and creating academic excellence. And then our very own Beth Whaling, Executive Director of Educational Technology, received the Excellence in Innovation Award from Power School. And we had, I think, 5 different employees present in the breakout sessions. So when Heath talked about Epic being an innovator, the opportunity to present and multiply ourselves and share the knowledge that we've acquired with other school districts, other Power School users, is exactly what we're doing. We're sharing those best practices so that we can multiply those efforts outside of Oklahoma to be able to have an impact on students. And then I also had the privilege to speak on the topic of artificial intelligence and how it's going to be impacting every sector of society, including public education, and what we're doing at Epic Charter Schools to begin to immerse ourselves into these new AI waters. Next slide. Learning Fund, so this is progress. Beginning this year, the Learning Fund became available on August the 1st. A month earlier than in previous years, this change was designed to give parents, teachers, and students more time to plan and utilize their fund effectively. The fund can now be used from August 1 to July 31st, so congratulations to our finance team who did an outstanding job of making these funds available to parents, teachers, and students early, and then also our tech team led by Deputy Superintendent of Technology Roger Kimball. It was a team effort. I can remember just a couple years ago not being able to open up our Learning Fund until October. Think about that. That's 9 weeks into the school year. And so we trimmed it back from October to September and now August 1, which allows us to get student orders in and for them to be able to receive their materials before the first day of school so that we can start learning immediately. So good progress by the team. Next slide. This is something that's different. So one of the things we have tried to focus on the last couple of years coming out of the pandemic is health and wellness. And so one of the benefits Epic offers its employees is a reduced fee membership to something that's called ClassPass. And so ClassPass offers access to a variety of fitness studios, gyms, spa salons, in-person classes, live stream sessions, and unlimited on-demand workouts for only $1 a month. And so if you look at the impact that, for example, inflation is having on all students, and parents and staff members, to be able to take care of oneself for $1 a month is a wonderful benefit for our staff. And one of my favorite quotes is, "You can't pour from an empty cup." So we truly are trying to model this commitment to better health and wellness for our staff and our students. And we have a video here on in conjunction with the Olympics that's going on in Paris, France. We have a future Olympian here at Epic Charter School. So let's take a look at Leah Lane.
Fencing, it has really clicked for me. It's not something you just start out at and be great. You really have to put in a lot of hard work. We've been able to travel the country with that for the last year and allow her to compete, in large part because of the flexibility that we have with Epic Charter Schools. To balance her education with her passion, and that's been a really successful model for us because she's been able to grow in her education and in the sport. And last year, she finished the year second in the country in the Division II USA fencing. Epic really helped me stay motivated on my schoolwork. The self-discipline of being self-paced, she learned to manage her time well. And I think the study skills there will be highly transferable to college. We've been really blessed to have the same teacher all the way through. So that's one of the things I like about Epic is the continuity of the education, because this teacher is really seeing her grow and what she's capable of, and she's really great at
time. So in the packet right now, you have financial statements that show a cash balance of $54.4 million roughly, with $7.7 million in outstanding warrants. That's checks that haven't cleared the bank, as a reminder. And then the end of June shows revenue at $342 million and expenses at $295, almost $5, which leaves a fund balance of $46.7 million. So it's going to change a little bit, but it's not going to change a lot. It's going to change a couple of decimal points maybe. So here's our dashboard. End of the year, goal is 100%, and the revenue is sitting at 98.63. That will not change. There's no more money being deposited in the bank that would go back into June. So I wanted to explain that little bitty tiny print doesn't look that little when it's on my monitor. We had almost 6.3 million collected in July for prior year federal claims. So the claims were filed for expenditures that happened in last year, but the money didn't get deposited until July. So that becomes revenue for this year. If it had happened in June, it would have been in our carryover. So it would have been in our revenue and it would have been in our carryover. So the net effect is exactly the same. It's just because it crossed the line on the calendar, we have to treat it a little bit differently. And those funds are always coded differently from current year federal funds, so you can always see what was prior year and what's current year. And so that big chunk of that is ESSER money that came in July for claims that we filed for expenditures for FY24. So if you put that back in as if it was received, we're at 100.44% on revenue. I just think that that's an important thing to know. We didn't miss the mark, it was just a timing problem. So that's really good budgeting on expenses. Goal is 100% or less, and we're at 97.1. And again, that number might change slightly between now and next board meeting. By the next board meeting, we will have the final June financial statements for you with all of the bills paid and everything all closed out. Here's our trend for revenue. It's almost exactly the same as FY22, which is interesting and a little bit higher than FY23. But overall, those blue lines are pretty stable, which is nice. Only the bumps we expect, which is nice. And again, the federal claims being a big chunk of that July. And then expenses, as expected, the June bonuses, of course, were paid out in June. So the blue line for FY24 was higher than the orange line for FY23, which we expect because we have a larger staff. It's much, much smaller than the line in FY22, which is gray, because at the end of FY22, going into the 22-23 school year, we shifted a lot of the compensation out of the bonus and put it into the base salary. So it's paid through the year. So all the lines through the months are a little higher, but the bonus line is much smaller. And teachers seem to be very happy about that. I mean, they'd love to have both, but you know. Okay, so that's all I have for the financial statements as they stand right now for June. And I can answer any questions about that before I go on and give you a very short funding update. None? Okay. Well, you're going to get to see them one more time, and of course, you can always email me. All right, I wanted to give a very brief funding update because we did have a release for the initial funding allocation for the year. And before I go through what we received from the State Department, I wanted to go through the ever-present fund balance calculation of where did we think we were going to be and where are we currently. So our budgeted fund balance on the approved budget was $42.6 million. Our current fund balance is $46.7. If I were to add back in the late paid claims and then cancel out all the open POs that haven't been paid, that puts us at 56.9, roughly. My hoped for number was $60,400,000. So we're about $3.5 million difference, which is not bad at all. Now that's where I started hoping like all year long that was set. And we had a lot of change last year. Mid-year we hired 70 or 100 teachers in January. We had 3,000 students enroll between the first quarter statistical report, which is what we're funded off of, and the last day of school. So 3,000 additional students that had to be funded out of what we had in our carryover. And then we also had increases in costs and facilities and technology, and we had quite a few hires in the fourth quarter. A lot of that was driven by opening our 85T facility and the transition from outsourcing to in-housing our technology demands. We needed to start that before the contract ended, so there was an overlap of where we had a subcontractor and our people, so that doubles that expense. All of that was expected, but you never know what it's going to cost until you start doing it, right? So all of those things to me more than justify a $3.5 million difference. So I'm happy with where we are. Would I like it to be bigger? Always. Is it healthy? Yes, it's healthy. We're good. So we're just going to finish paying those bills and wrap it up, and then it'll be ready for audit. Ready for all the examines. So, and we'll be uploading that data to the state between now and the September board meeting because it is due on September 1st. Okay, we received a letter from the State Department announcing what our initial allocation is going to be for the school year. So the initial allocation comes out sometime in July, and it is paid for the first time in August. So there's no state aid in July. And we're always kind of waiting and waiting and waiting to see what it's going to be. And I thought this letter was confusing, so if this was shared with you, I thought it would be helpful to see it in like a spreadsheet, so I've created one for you today. But basically this tells us that they were going to pay us $41.99.77 per student, and this is the weighted ADM, so it's the students plus their weights. So one student might be a 1.3, another might be a 3.2, depending on their weights. And then it shows what it was at the beginning of last year and where it was at the end of last year. And it's interesting to me the way that they ordered that because they show, well, this is an increase from this, but then it's a decrease from this. It's a decrease. Make no mistake. Like, we were at 4214, which is the third line, and it's 4199. So it's going from 200.2 million to 199.45 million. Is that a lot? No, but it is a decrease. So To me, when you put on the letter and the next thing you say is it's an increase, it makes it look like an increase. It's not an increase. Will it stay here? No, it will not. It will move again. We will not know until January what the allocation is going to be. And then, as you can see, last year we were originally given, that is the second board meeting in a row, Bob Summers. I'm cracking up here. Okay, hi, crickets. In July of 23, we were allocated 4159.92. In December, the midterm adjustment was 4199. We were all super excited because it went way up. So that's going to happen again this year. There will be an adjustment. Can't tell you if it's going to go up or down. If you know what the budget is for Common Ed in the state of Oklahoma, let me know, because I don't. In June, the final allocation, after everything was done, there are adjustments that are made throughout the year. They take penalties from some schools and they divvy it up to all the other schools. Epic has no penalties, so ours can only go up, right? So it ended up at 4214. And they started the year at 4199. And then they've already gone down to 4195 as of August 5th. So it's going to keep moving. This is why this is so hard. Like, you tell me how much are we going to have? I'm like, I have no idea. So I went ahead and did a couple of projections because enrollment right now is very fluid. And based on my conversations with Superintendent Banfield, I've projected at 30,000 students based on our average weights that we would be at a weighted ADM of 52.7, and that's 221 million. So that's a $22 million increase from our initial allocation. If we go up to 32,000 students, we'd be at 236, so a $37 million increase. This is the question that I get asked all the time, is what's it going to be if, and what's it going to be if? So I just thought it'd be nice to see it. But I think it's important to know, I mean, you see a dollar fluctuate, but when it's a dollar times 47,000 kids, it makes a difference. So I think that's just really important information. So this is what we're dealing with. Sometimes they issue 16 adjustments between the first day of the year and the midterm. And there's all kinds of things that affect it. And we just wait and see what they post. And when they post it, we react. So as soon as we have more information that's different from this, I will come back and share it with you. This is our actual allocation sheet. I just put it in there so everybody could see it. And it shows the top, the weighted ADM, and then the rates, and then the bottom, that 199,271. And this is from August 5th. Okay, so next month, we'll have updated June financials with the final numbers after paying all the bills and liquidating all the leftover POs that don't need to be paid. And then we'll have the July financials for the first of the month, for the first of the year. Then we're gonna have some updated funding estimates, I hope, because we'll have better enrollment numbers. And then an updated budget based on that enrollment at early September. The budget we have right now that we're operating under is incredibly conservative. It's at 27,000 students. So if we can go above that, now that's not weighted, of course. I wish that was weighted, that'd be great, but it's not, that's ADM. So if that goes up, then we definitely will need to increase the budget. If we don't do it in September, we can do it in October. We won't be anywhere near that budget until the fourth quarter of the year. But I'd like to keep it real and as close to actual as possible so that we can plan accordingly. That is all I have for today. It's more than normal, I know. Bob. I'm happy to answer any questions. I can go back to any slide you need me to, or any comments or questions at all.
When y'all were picking the 27 number, what went into that?
Yeah, Michael, jump in here and talk about the algorithm. That's a historical algorithm that we use to do projections in terms of enrollment. And so before you speak, though, just to sort of quantify reality for you, I think the last 3 days, we've enrolled approximately 300 students per day, or we've had 300 applications. We haven't enrolled them all yet, but so you do the math on that. In 3 days, we've added almost 1,000 students. So when Janice says it's fluid, like enrollment's fluid right now and trying to project, if you do that over the course of 10 days, 300, I mean, think about that. That's 3,000 students. You just saw the difference in the numbers. And so that will continue throughout the month of August. And honestly, even into September, as some students go back to their local brick and mortar school and it just doesn't work out for whatever reason, and they come back to us. And so as we get closer to that first quarter statistical report number, we'll be able to more accurately predict and project what that is.
And I appreciate that, and I know you might not come back, but this is excellent. Like, I really appreciate this work, and then the forecasting, you know, based on these numbers, and I mean, I'm just really impressed with the data usage, and I want to flag it that I've seen what's gone into this,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just impressive about these microsites. Like, this is real work, and I appreciate the level of forecasting you can give to this body based on, you know, just really solid, hard numbers and work that went into that. So I really appreciate it deeply.
No
Michael?
problem. And
Yeah,
I can
go ahead.
answer, I'll start with answering, because I actually picked 27.
Okay.
Bart probably would have rather I picked 29,000. But when I was looking at the enrollment at the end of the year and looking at our FQSR report, the ADM for 22-23 was 27 and change. The ADM for 23-24 was 26 and change. And we're on a 2-year high. So we're going to be funded either at the 27 number or the 26 number or whatever it is this year. And last year we were funded at the 27 number. So to go to 30, to me, is like to me, that was not conservative enough. I felt like it needed to be, and it's an initial budget. We know it can change.
Yep.
It's just getting you started. It's almost like, let me release 85% of what I think we're gonna have so that we don't overspend if
Yep.
we have a surprise in our enrollment.
And
So
I think it's a perfect number.
I picked 27.
Yeah,
Yep.
I just agree, based on the data I see too,
Yeah.
you know, that it was just a great choice. So it's just really impressive to me that everyone kind of has that consensus
Yep.
based on data, you know, nobody's guessing, so.
Yeah, and one other thing, the importance, Michael, jump up here because we're going to talk about the algorithm. The importance of the formula and the algorithm that goes into the projection is this. We have to hire for the 24-25 school year in the spring. So think about that. I mean, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars, you know, in difference between where you are versus where you're projected, and you've got to supply the demand. You've got to hire enough teachers to be able to supply the demand. And what we saw last year was we didn't hire enough teachers. And so we had to come back in January and hire an additional 60 teachers because we grew. And so the importance of the algorithm and trying to predict and project student enrollment informs the hiring decisions that we make in the spring. And then we lock them into a contract for 12 months. So think about that. I mean, we're locked in here, but the benefit of that is we are fully hired going into the 24-25 school year. So in the midst of a national teacher shortage and a statewide teacher shortage, where they're scrambling to find teachers to fill their vacancies, we're fully hired and ready to start school on August the 15th. But Michael, jump in here and talk about.
Can I ask a quick question,
Yeah,
Bob? What
yeah.
is the ratio student to teacher at this point?
Yeah, so we hire at 28-1, and that is exactly what we finished the school year on last year, was 28-1. So 28 students for every teacher at Epic, on average. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
So the simplest way to put this is it's two parts. So we use the retention rate. So we take the historical retention rate. Let me back up. We take last year's retention rate and we average the last 3 years. So that's one half of it. And then we take the new applications. And so the new applications is really the driver of the, the new, sorry, it's telling me where to go. Is this right? Can you stand over here? Behind the podium? Okay. Are you sure? Okay. Right here? Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Sean. So the new applications, we've been doing this a lot of years,
Yes,
as
we
Bart
have.
said.
Yes, we have.
When you're trying to project out from April, May, and trying to figure out next year's enrollment, that's really difficult, and we have to hire. So the new applications, we come up with a multiplier. So it's basically you're looking at last year's new apps and then this year's new apps. So our projection is higher because our new apps are higher than last year. And so that number is applied to the new enrollments we had during our FQSR. So that is combined with our retention rate. That's kind of the high level. Does that make sense?
It's brilliant, it's excellent.
Yeah. And so it's really, I mean, as Bart referenced, I mean, we're in this mode where we're ramping up, and we see a lot of new students coming in. And so they continue to come in, and so the projection will keep kind of staying steady. But as wherever Janice said, I mean, I think being conservative is good.
I do too.
Yeah, that's great.
So 29, what did you say, 29,000? 27. Okay, even more conservative, good. Because it always makes me nervous.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you
just
very
great
much.
work, great
Yeah,
work by the finance
absolutely.
team, great work by our data team to be able to supply the demand. And then when you add in geography and the fact that we're in all 77 counties, we're trying to predict
Yeah.
enrollment in 77 counties.
Well, and it's just a demonstration of the kind of, the caliber of work that you're doing, that you can be ahead, you know, and at this point in the game, we have to be using our pattern recognition to stay ahead. You know, we have to be in lead for these students, and we can never get caught on that back foot again. So I want to flag how it takes a level of discipline and humility that I just see this entire team execute every time, and I'm impressed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? All right. Yeah.
Have you been able to recognize, let's say, a consistency in new application rates by month?
Well, we actually do it by day.
You do it by
So
day?
we have seen a consistency. So the multiplier has been anywhere from 1.5 to 1.3. And so it's consistently stuck at that 1.5 to 1.3.
Okay.
So I think today we're around 1.3 something. And so, yeah, it always makes me nervous. You want to make sure you're right when you're forecasting. We have a lot of money at stake, so, yeah. So, yeah, this is the time of year, and you guys all, I think you all are on the daily email, correct?
I am.
I hope, if you're not, we'll make sure you get
Yeah,
added.
you can see it.
Okay, we'll get you added.
It's my 7:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes you mad.
Yeah.
feel free, because
It's
you're on the
data. It's so
budgeting committee,
exciting.
so,
Okay,
yeah, if you want to get together and chat about it, I'll get you added.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, it just seems like we're marching towards around 30,000 kids. That's, could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less, but the activity we're seeing on our website data, our social media campaign data, all the data right now is trending to be around 30,000 kids. And so, of course, we'll report to you where we're at every single month once we get into it, and you can see where we're going to land. And of course, the first quarter statistical report is the 45th day, so it's the end of the first 9 weeks. And so that's what we'll lock in, is that average daily membership for those 45 days, and that's what our midterm adjustment in January will be based on. That coupled with what Janice talked about, which is the weighted ADM, that's, we think it's going to be up, but we'll see.
One thing to note on FQSR, we are starting a week earlier, so I think it's good. You want to get your algorithm right, but, you know, being conservative is good.
Yeah, and what was interesting, last thing on this, and then I'll stop talking.
I could
is-
talk all day.
I
I
could
could
too.
too.
We could just do
Yeah.
this whole meeting
What
all
was
day.
interesting last year was our end of the year kid count was actually more than our first quarter statistical report. So we grew throughout the year, but we really didn't receive that funding for those kids. So we educated, I think, over 1,000, was that? Yeah, about 3,000 kids for free.
And I think, you know,
That's a good sign.
one tweak this time is pathways, you know.
Great
So
point.
we just have a whole new system running, and we have a whole new age cohort to service here, and we really, it's an unknown, you know. So I think that's a really interesting, and we don't really know, like, when they'll enroll.
No.
Or, you know, we just have no data on this,
No.
so it's a really fun time to dig into the data, because
It
we're
is.
learning just brand new things right now. So.
But with Pathways specifically, what we do know is there's 400,000 Oklahomans without a high school diploma.
And it just breaks my heart that COVID, you know, kept some kids from this. Like, it slays me. So the fact that we might be able to capture these students and bring them back in to a rhythm is just huge to me.
All right, I promise this is the last thing, but to Bart's point, for a lot of years, we always saw enrollment go up from FQSR to the end of the year. And then, of course, when all whatever broke loose, we saw our FQSR enrollment, it went down by the end of the year. And so I think it's a testament to our reputation and the good work going on that it just goes up throughout the year. makes Janice's job hard, but we're here to serve every kid that wants to come here. So,
Well, it's excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you,
Janice. Yeah, seriously.
I would like to move to accept the financial statements of Janice Nguyen.
I'll second that.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Ms. Casper?
Yes.
Ms. Flom?
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Vella?
Yes.
We're on to the consent agenda. Do we have any items that anyone would like to pull out? In that case, well, everyone, I would accept a motion to approve.
A motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll second that.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Ms. Casper?
Yes.
Ms. Flom?
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
And Mr. Vella?
Yes.
Okay, tell us all about it.
We would need a motion, a second, and a vote if the board would like to go into executive session to discuss the items listed on the agenda.
I would move that we go into executive session.
I'll second.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Ms. Casper?
Yes.
Ms. Flom?
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
And Mr. Vella?
Yes.
We'll meet in the executive conference room.
Yes. Yes. Please take your time and refresh yourselves as needed. Okay, are we ready to come
We
back?
need a motion,
Oh.
a second, and vote to return. Are you okay? Dean?
Yeah. Yeah,
So we need to take a minute?
no, I'm all right.
Okay, I move that we return from executive session.
Second.
Sorry.
No.
Vote.
Ms. Berry,
Yes.
Ms. Casper,
Yes.
Ms. Flom,
Yes.
Mr. Hammonds,
Breathe.
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
and Mr. Bella.
Yes.
Can we take a 5-minute
Yeah.
recess?
Can we just move
I
to
think we're
adjourn?
Or
done.
just do this? Okay,
Um,
yeah. Let me give the executive session minutes compliance. Only board members and Bart Manfield, Janice Nguyen, Lynn Stickney, Brandon Webb were in executive session. Only the item listed on the agenda was discussed. No votes were taken. And if nobody has A4, we can, all right, we can go to 6A.
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Ms. Berry,
Yes.
Ms. Casper,
Yes.
Ms. Flom,
Yes?
Mr. Hammonds,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
and Mr. Bella.
Yes.